You're listening to a 58 Ember production.
Welcome to Skytalkers. Here are your hosts, Charlotte and Caitlin.
Hello, and welcome to Skytalkers. I'm your host, Charlotte.
Hey, everyone. I'm your other host, Caitlin, and welcome to the 8th anniversary Q&A for Skytalkers.
Woo!
8 years. We've been doing this thing, this podcasting thing, 8 years, coming up on a decade.
It's crazy. It is crazy. When people tell me that it's been 5 years since The Rise of Skywalker, 7 years since
The Last
The Last Jedi. Like, it's so nuts.
No, it's 7. Yeah.
Yeah,
Skywalker. Yeah.
And then 8 years since we started the podcast. And then we're coming up on 10 years since The Force Awakens this year. And honestly, 20 years since Revenge of the Sith this year too. It's a big anniversary year. And Revenge of the Sith, I've been a Star Wars fan for 20 years. Like, that is like a massive Star Wars fan for 20 years. Like, that is crazy.
It really is.
8 years of doing this podcast too feels insane. And I'm so happy that we're still doing it and that we are cooking along and that I still love doing it as much as we do. So I'm so if you've been here since like the very beginning, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you. Please let us know if you've been here since the beginning. That would be kind of crazy, actually. That's so long. 8 years. We were completely different people back then. I mean, we weren't, but we were. And we were in completely different stages of life. I mean,
yeah.
we're kind of boring. We're kind of consistent, but
we were in different stages of life, but it wasn't that different. I feel like what is crazy to think about is actually how much new Star Wars content we've gotten since the beginning of us starting this podcast.
Yeah.
I can't even, if you were to ask me right now how much Star Wars you've gotten since you started the podcast in January 2017, I truly I don't think I could give you a full list. It is so much.
Well, it just reminds me that often throughout the years, we've gotten the question from non-Star Wars people of, how do you have that much to talk about? You know, don't you run out of
I get that question
things?
monthly from people being like, oh, you have a Star Wars podcast? How long have you been doing it? 8 years.
How?
How? Don't you run out of things to talk about? And it's not even about the new content, though, because I feel like Caitlin and I have an entire trove of things we haven't even talked about in the past, too.
Yeah. There's
It's
a lot
crazy.
there.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. Star Wars is 48 years of content. Yes, we can make it 8 years to talk about stuff.
And technically a little bit even longer than that, because last year or 2 years ago was the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
And since we talk about content, not even content, just like history related to Lucasfilm Limited, I feel like it's even further than 48 years. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Insane. It's really insane.
Yeah. So
Anyway, welcome to our birthday episode. Skytalker's official birthday is actually January 11th, and we usually release an episode on January 11th, our birthday episode, or right around there. But it's a little later this year because we were covering Skeleton Crew at the time. So we're still in the month of January. It's still our birthday month. And this is always a really fun episode for Charlotte and I to do because we get to do questions. We get to do our Skytalker Star Wars dinner party, which we'll do here in a minute. And it's just a good time to reflect and think about the year ahead, the year behind us, and everything in between. It's always a really fun time. Last year, we did not do a Q&A. We did something a little bit different where we picked an episode from every year of the podcast to kind of recommend or reminisce about since we had done a Q&A every year before that. So we did something a little different last year, but this year we're back to the Q&A, and it was really fun to get in some questions from listeners, and I'm really excited to go through them.
Me too. The questions are really good. So I'm excited to talk about them. Also, I do have some stats. Sometimes I bring stats to this episode
I love
around the past year. The thing is, I love the stats. You love the stats. But do our listeners love the stats? I don't know. But we'll go through those pretty fast. But the thing that is so exciting, I think, is that every year we update our Star Wars dinner party picks for the year. So, Caitlin, why don't you explain that for people who are unaware?
Yeah, I do feel like it's been a minute, probably since last birthday episode that we explained the Skytalkers Star Wars dinner party. Basically, legend has it, the lore, is that when Charlotte and I were younger and we were driving around, had nothing to do, blah, 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 we would do the thing where we would ask each other, oh, if you were having a dinner party and you could invite 5 Star Wars people, who would you invite? And it just kind of became a running past the time kind of game for us, you know what I mean? And we brought it on to the podcast on our very first episode, January 11th, 2017. That was kind of what we talked about because we didn't know what else to talk about in that very first episode. We did our Star Wars dinner party, and now we ask it when guests come on our show. We ask them their Star Wars dinner party, and every year Charlotte and I update our own guest lists, and it's always really fun because the guest lists, they're always pretty reflective of what we're each interested in at the moment, or things that are coming out in the Star Wars world or have recently come out. So they're always a good look back in time at what we were kind of thinking about in the Star Wars world.
Because we sometimes bring the same group of people to our dinners, last year we had a rule where we couldn't bring any repeats, people who came to our dinner parties previously in previous years. And that ended up with me last year bringing just characters versus real people. There's no stipulations. You can invite people alive or not, fictional, non-fictional. But so I chose, who did I choose, Caitlin? You have the list in front of you.
Yeah, so last year Charlotte chose Ahsoka, Rey, Padme, Leia, and Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we suggested that this dinner party be at your apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and you create kind of like a therapy session, ask some
Absolutely.
deep questions. I think you were going to bust out the friendship cards that
Mm-hmm.
ask some introspective questions. There's going to be a lot of candlelight, a lot of like red wine kind of vibe.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
what about you? Because yours, I think, was really reflective of the time too.
Mine was, going to be a good time. I invited Eamon Esfandi, Daisy Ridley, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Dexter Jettster, and Jack Black. And we were going to be at an Applebee's with margaritas. And that was that was my setup for my dinner last year.
Nice. Just a good time.
Yeah. There was no other ulterior motive.
I would say usually there is an ulterior motive, though, that we are excited about a movie coming out. So we'll invite those directors or writers or something to talk about, deleted scenes, what's to come, get the spoilers, we want that. But I don't know what we're doing this year. I don't see Caitlin's. Caitlin doesn't see mine. So we're going to present it now. Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Great.
So mine, yes, we have had ulterior motives in the past, but I feel like the past couple years, I wanted to keep the good time. You know what I mean? It's not about. I have had dinners that were about like tea and gossip. I've had dinners about I want to know what's coming down the line, and now I just want good energy. You know what I mean? Kind of like Dexter Jettster at an Applebee's or Chili's. Like I need more of that in my life. I don't know if this dinner really lives up to Dexter Jettster at a Chili's with a margarita, I'll be honest. But I do like the vibes at my dinner this year. And I have a new invite.
Okay,
so I'm bringing back Eamon Esfandi because he just embodies a good time to me in the Star Wars world, and he continues to. So he's coming back to dinner. I am bringing back Carrie Fisher. I would love, I think her and Eamon would actually be like such a good duo.
Just like chaotic.
Yeah. And then a standard. He's been invited to a lot of dinners. Ryan Johnson is coming back.
He's coming back.
Again, the Ryan and Carrie is a great combo too. We know this. And I think that would be great. Next, I'm inviting Bryce Dallas Howard.
Okay, nice.
She would be really fun too. I do think there could be a little bit of let's talk about what's coming down the line.
With her.
Yeah. I'm going to bring it up. I think I would try to ply her with her drink of choice, which I don't know what her drink of choice is, to Tell me more about the World Between Worlds map that has remained blurred and the Mandalorian timeline that she had in that one Instagram live.
Oh my God, that I swear to God only
years
I
ago.
watched.
If you don't know what we're talking about, years
There's
ago,
lore here. There's lore.
Bryce Dallas Howard did an Instagram live where she was talking about
the night of her Mandalorian episode, the first one that she directed.
Yeah. And she did an Instagram live about it. And she's talking about, how Dave Filoni was talking to her about the Mandalorian timeline and their history. And she whips out all of these notes.
Like a moleskin and then also loose leaf paper.
Yeah. And starts holding them up to the camera. And then you can kind of see on her face when she realizes she shouldn't be showing these things. And she quickly takes it back.
It's very Tom Holland. Oh no.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I have screenshots, but
you can't read anything on them.
You
really.
can't see anything because of Instagram's bit rate for the lives. It's terrible. And I think I've had some people try to put it through like a sharpener or like an AI tool or something that can make it like better.
Yeah.
And
our Discord had a good time trying to
exactly. Our Discord really had a lot of fun with that.
They tried.
She has the notes though.
She has them. And I also think I would bet that she's seen the World Between Worlds map. There's also, if you don't know the World Between Worlds map, there is this drawing that I think Dave did of the World Between Worlds as it related to the Jedi Temple on Lothal. And he had all these notes around it. And it's been shown a couple of times at, Star Wars Celebration, for example. But it's always blurred. There's like one corner of it, one piece of writing that they've unblurred for some of these panels. And then the rest of the thing is blurred. And I think Bryce has seen the real thing. So I would like to find out what her drink of choice is, her treat of choice. And I would try maybe to do a little bribery for that. Okay. All right. So we have Eamon, Carrie, Ryan, and Bryce. And then my last pick is Irvin Kershner.
Oh my God.
I know, right? I don't know. I was really trying to think of who to bring. I hadn't even invited Bryce yet. And he just came to me.
I will say, not to interrupt you, continue on. I have something to say about that later.
Okay. I feel like I don't know a lot actually about Irvin Kershner's personality. But I do think he would mesh well with the rest of the group. Obviously, he knows Carrie. And I don't know. There's something intriguing about him in this setup. I can't explain it, but I decided to invite him.
I would say what I was going to say was that I feel like you've always been like super interested in figuring out Irvin Kershner ever since we watched those like behind the scenes documentaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I feel like you were particularly struck by his filmmaking style and his opinions and things like that. And I just feel like we've actually never really talked about this on the podcast, but like you definitely have. So I'm not that surprised to hear you say that, even though I think I'm surprised with the group.
Right. Yeah.
That he's included. But I do think that you have always found him intriguing.
I have. And I feel like it's something I haven't dived into really ever. It's always just been like, oh, I should read more into that. You know what I mean? And then I haven't. So maybe after this dinner, this wonderful dinner, I'll have lots of new things to tell you all about Irvin Kershner.
2025 goals.
Yeah, right? All right. I'm so excited to hear your dinner this year.
Okay. First off, like I kind of want you to guess like what the theme of my dinner is.
All right. Well, you told me before we started recording that you weren't sure you loved your dinner this year. So I'm not sure if you went back to your roots.
I did go back to my roots.
Okay. Ryan Johnson.
No.
No Ryan Johnson. Dave.
Okay, no. I'm cutting the cord. We're not I'm not having you guess. I'm just going to go for it. Okay. So the theme of my dinner this year is Revenge of the Sith retrospective.
Oh, that's great. You've never done like a big theme like that. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. It's themed. So on that list is George Lucas, Rick McCallum.
Ooh.
I don't think I've ever brought him to a Star Wars dinner party before.
I don't think we have.
And the reason why I'm choosing Rick is I actually think that he is a pretty like open guy, I guess.
Yeah, I agree.
And if we're doing a retrospective, I think George has an opinion about like how things went, the writing process and everything. And then Rick has the other side of it, which is It's not the truth as much as
know,
it's like I know I agree. Like, because I think, producing the film and making sure we're on budget and which I don't think they were, and on time, which I don't think they were. I think that's another story. So I am interested in that. And then I toyed a lot with bringing special effects people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing it, but I'm just saying that I did toy with that because I didn't know who to pick from that. Okay. I think if this was going to be a large party, not just like an intimate 5-person dinner, I would have gone with the special effects people and the sound people. But I didn't do that. This time I went actors. So I'm sorry about it. I just want to, if the conversation is about talking about the production of Revenge of the Sith, Hayden has to be there, Ewan has to be there. And this is where I struggled. I don't think Natalie really enjoyed the process of making Revenge of the Sith. I don't have any reason to believe that beyond just like rumors, I guess, and like reading too far into things around the production schedule and like just being done with shooting it and like her in college and things like that, right? Again, I don't really have any concrete evidence about that. So that's why I was like, maybe I don't even want her there because I kind of just want Hayden and Ewan
who are on like their little Star Wars high right now.
Exactly. But then I was like, well, I have to invite Natalie. Yeah. I have to. So I feel like she has been so open on interviews to talking about Star Wars than she ever was. Mm-hmm. I've definitely felt a shift in that as someone who has followed her career and for years. So I am like, all right, fine. The reason why I opened it up to actors, if I could just expand on this more, is that I was really struck by how deeply Hayden Christensen thought and thinks about Anakin Skywalker's descent into the dark side. And I found this during the press tour for Obi-Wan Kenobi when we talked to him, and same with Ewan McGregor as well, right? Like, I think Ewan being a producer on Obi-Wan Kenobi and then Hayden being included in the press that was great. I'm so happy that they did that because we got to ask Hayden questions about, the light side, the dark side, is there good and et cetera, things like that it's very clear when he gives these answers that he's thought very deeply about them. And I know that George and Hayden have had several conversations around that and had in like during this time, right? So that's why it's like important for me to include the actors as a part of it. And I don't think I would have done that had I not seen those conversations exhibited during that press cycle for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So now I do feel like there's enough of a retrospective reflection. And then just to go back to Natalie being there, I think there's so little written about Natalie Portman's portrayal of Padme in Revenge of the Sith. It is everything that is out there is like I've read it, and it's not that much. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of photos. There's not a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and I have so many questions. So like, to be honest, like I really do want to know her opinions on her ending and what if there was any sort of back and forth, what George told her about that, what George told her originally about her ending. I don't know if things changed. Like there's so much that we don't know when you really get down to it, right? That I am curious and I'd love to hear about that, talk it through.
I think that's a great dinner. I love that yours is very serious, very well thought out. And I am like, could I bribe Bryce Dallas Howard to show me her moleskin notebooks?
Well, I think Bryce has come to a Star Wars dinner party before with one of us. And I think we brought this up. If Bryce ever comes on Skytalkers, you better bet we are bringing it up. If it's a roundtable interview, it might not be the first question that we get. But I want it to be the second.
Do you remember that one time in...
No, and I know she does. I know she remembers.
She's hoping no one else does. So maybe we shouldn't bring it up.
Guys, I swear there was like 100 to 200 people on this live. It was not.
I remember you texting me going, turn on Bryce Dallas Howard's live right now.
And I think it was like Black Friday or something like that, or the day before Thanksgiving. It was a really inopportune time. Whatever. It was just hilarious. So the
Yeah.
screenshots, I got to go through them. Maybe I'll post them on Instagram.
Yeah. Maybe now in 2025.
Anyone remember this?
We can.
At Bryce Dallas Howard.
That's
Thoughts?
a surefire way for her to become our friend.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, these are great dinners. And I love that because we're co-hosts, I get to come to your dinner and you get to come to mine. So,
that's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works. Sorry about it.
Yeah. So it's great.
Yeah, it's very good. Well, these were good dinners. What a
I'm
good
really
update.
happy with it.
Yeah. You said you weren't sure you loved it. I think it's a great dinner.
I could talk about Revenge of the Sith the whole time.
Yeah.
So, like with anything.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
I think so. I think Rick is the perfect addition, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think we've brought Rick before.
No, and we should have. It was a mistake.
I'm so intrigued by that man.
Let's put Rick and Irvin Kershner together. Let's see what kind of conversation they would have.
He just doesn't talk about Star Wars anymore, and it was such a big part of his life for so long. He's so well featured in those behind the scenes documentaries. He is a main character.
And yet?
And he's just not even really affiliated at all with Lucasfilm anymore. And not to mention, Rick produced side by side with George Lucas, the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So
they worked together for a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge chunk of his life. So I'd love to read that man's memoir.
Yeah, me too.
That would be, yeah, I'd be begging to get on that press list for that one if that ever came out. Okay, so great Star Wars dinners this year. Can't wait to see what we're going to bring next year and how that will reflect on the year ahead or the year previous. Are we ready for some stats?
I'm ready for the stats.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with total podcast episodes in 2024. So if you remember last year, we had a pretty low year due to the writers and actors strike. Okay. So last year we were talking like 20 episodes, maybe 15. I can't even remember at this point that we did total. Okay. So in 2024, we had 46 total podcast episodes.
Oh my gosh.
Yay.
That's more than I thought it would be. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. We interviewed 12 different people.
Great.
It's a lot. And the reason why I'm doing 12 as a composite number is because often, even though sometimes these pairings are grouped when we do like roundtable interviews for press days and stuff, there's still, even though it's like sometimes one in a podcast episode that you do, it's still like a day of us doing interviews. So yeah. Anyway, so we interviewed 12 people and we did, this is the big number, we did 30 television discussions.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's crazy. 30.
That's 30. A lot.
I know. We did 3 themed episodes and a new stat, this is the last stat I have for you, is we did 4 history episodes.
Oh.
So, yeah. That's like not a new addition to our core, but it did strike me that we did 4 of them last year.
Feels like a high number. We did Leah Brackett, Modesto. What were the other ones?
Holiday special.
Oh, right. The holiday special.
I think I counted this as the beginning documentary that we did.
Yeah, I think that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, the beginning documentary for the Phantom Menace, which I didn't even realize until I really enjoyed doing that episode. And the fact that that documentary is not on Disney Plus means it's all the more important to continue to talk about it on the podcast, because I would hate for such an amazing, the top tier documentary of behind the scenes Star Wars to be forgotten, honestly.
It is just crazy how there are so many new Star Wars fans who have come in the Disney Plus era who are not exposed to that kind of stuff, like the beginning, because they could go through all the movies on Disney Plus, watch all the TV shows, do the whole thing. And then there's this whole other side treasure trove of fantastic information and honestly like learning about how these movies are made. And, you just don't even know. Crazy. And I think especially younger people they don't even know the behind the scenes features that they're missing. You know what I mean? To like go and seek them out even because it's just not part of their experience with movie watching. It's just, it's frustrating. And yeah, we should keep talking about the beginning and all the other good ones.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And it's just something I've thought about a lot recently about how, I do think there are podcasts that are like, oh, we won't talk about the beginning because it's not new, it's not shiny, it's not on Disney Plus. So it's not really accessible. I mean, it is accessible because it's on YouTube, but who knows how long it's going to be on YouTube. And I just think it's important as Star Wars fans who like to chronicle the fandom, even in small ways, to continue to, I don't know, shine a spotlight on some of the stuff that's not shoved in your face in the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah. Or that people might not even know is available to them.
Exactly.
To watch and to, just hear from somebody like Rick and George together in a budget meeting. I mean,
yeah.
Good
riveting
Lord,
content.
It really is, though.
When you said, "Oh yes, the budgetting meeting,"
I can see
honestly,
them sitting
yeah,
at
honestly.
that round table with the windows and the the sad carpet on the floor. It's great.
The sad carpet on the floor.
You can see it too, right?
Yes, I can. It just looks like Office Park vibes.
It looks like a temporary office park that is somehow even sadder. I can't lie. So it's worth a watch.
Okay, are we ready to do questions?
Let's go for questions. So our first question is from Katie Peters, and she writes, I'm not sure if you've heard about theories that Wim becomes a pilot in the Resistance. I'm curious what you think the future holds for Fern, Wim, KB, and Neil. Do you think they stay on At-Aten or travel the galaxy? And we got a couple of Skeleton Crew questions, which I'm really excited to talk about. And I totally think that they travel the galaxy. They have to. One taste was not enough for Fern and Wim, at least. And I don't think for KB and Neil either.
I love the theory of Wim becoming a pilot in the Resistance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that last shot of him looking up to the stars when the ships are going up overhead sort of makes you think that maybe that's the next move for Wim eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, now the barrier's down. There is no way they stay on At-Aten at least forever. Like I think they're helping the galaxy somehow.
Yeah,
and
I do
leaving.
and
leaving.
I feel like maybe
just because, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I feel like maybe Neil's vacations are, Neil's home base is At-Aten.
I agree.
But perhaps Fern and Wim and maybe KB, they return to At-Aten. You know what I mean? Like Neil lives there, but goes out. He travels. He does stuff. Comes back for his bubble bath, leaves again. But Wim, Fern, and KB are maybe wandering a little bit more.
Agreed fully. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think it all depends on what happens to At-Aten.
Mm-hmm.
And if At-Aten remains as like a peaceful part of the New Republic or something, then I do think it's likely that Neil stays. But if, something happens to At-Aten, then yeah, I think they're going to be thrown back into the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love those characters. I hope we get to see them again. Okay, so our next question is from Joey. What supporting Jedi character, not Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luke, or Rey, would you want to teach you the ways of the Force? If you'd rather learn the dark side, which supporting Darksider would you want as your teacher? May the Force be with you both, and Force willing, I'll see you guys in Japan. I hope we see you in Japan, Joey. I would love to learn the Force from Yaddle. I don't know why that was literally the first thing that came to my mind.
I don't know why, but envisioning you and Yaddle having a
you mean me and Bryce Dallas Howard? You mean? If you guys don't know, Bryce Dallas Howard plays Yaddle, her voice in Tales of the Jedi. And she's awesome. Okay?
That's too much. Somehow I also have Yaddle at my dinner party this year. Incredible.
Yaddle
Incredible.
Year of Yaddle.
Year of Yaddle. Yeah. Picturing you and Yaddle having a lightsaber lesson is really interesting.
Weird?
Yeah. I said interesting.
Mm.
You said weird, but you said that, not me.
Also, I think I think I'd also like to be friends, or not teach me the ways of the Force, like master. I don't really want her as a master, but I want her as a friend. I want to be friends with Jackie from The Acolyte.
Oh, yeah. See, I was going to say I want the stranger to be my teacher.
That's nice, but I don't think he's supporting.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
He's a main. Sorry. He's a main baddie.
He is the main. He is the main. Well, I think that came into my head because I wanted to invite Manny Jacinto to my dinner party.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought about it, but I don't know why. He wasn't. I think Manny is great, and I think he would have fit the vibe, but it didn't happen this year. Maybe next year. But he's been on my mind.
He's always on your mind.
He's always on my mind. Okay, so then who else? I feel like I keep thinking of like main characters. Like I had actually thought about saying Soul because I think that would be a really fascinating
main character.
I know.
This is the problem. We care too much about the main characters.
I know, we're so basic.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say Barris, but post
nice.
Order 66. So in her
Darkseid era?
No, after she leaves. So what we see in Tales of the Empire.
Okay.
After she leaves the Inquisitors and escapes from that lifestyle, when she's like a healer and stuff. I think it would be fascinating to kind of hear her perspectives and how they've changed and everything like that.
It's funny because I'm not going to say that you can't say that, but
she's the main in Tales of the
Empire. She's a main character in Tales of the Empire.
That's a short story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Barris is a side character. She's not the main character. Okay. So I understand.
All right.
I just wanted to test you a little bit. Because the reason why I'm letting that slide
Yaddle is kind
is because
whatever. Okay.
I know. Yeah, you're right. You're so right. It's such a touche. But the reason why I'm letting that slide is because I actually think you would have said that regardless of, like, you've always liked Barris, and regardless of Tales of the Empire. So. Yeah. Okay. I don't think I would have said Yaddle without Tales of the Empire.
I don't think you would have said Yaddle either.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite episode of the Tales of the Jedi and of the Empire is Dooku and Yaddle. Fantastic episode.
Amazing.
Yeah. All right. Our next question is from David Griffiths, who asks, my question would be if you could work in any department as part of pre-production, filming, or post-production on a Star Wars project, past or present, what would it be? And if past, which project would you have most liked to work on in that capacity? That's a good question.
You go first.
Let's see. Any Star Wars project, pre-production, filming, or post-production? I think I would want to work in pre-production because I think it would be fun to just kind of be spitballing and speculating about everything that could happen and kind of like seeing concept art and seeing how that inspires you and everything like that part of the collaborative process. I think.
But what department?
Writing.
Okay. Like script supervising.
Screenwriting and stuff like that. Yeah. Because I would love to see how they work out, actual dialogue and blocking and when's the right moment to say this, because I feel like that's what we talk a lot about in, word choice and things like that. So I think that's where I would want to be. As far as which film, maybe Revenge of the Sith.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think so too, because of all the changes that happened to that script.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a different answer.
Okay.
Mine is I would like to be on the art department. Same reasoning as you, as sort of I would want to be part of the big sky part of pre-production art department, which is just drawing with certain ideas for The Force Awakens. Because the beginning of The Force Awakens, you were drawing art for what could be even The Rise of Skywalker. And we were getting what I assume happens, and I actually don't fully know this for 100% fact, but I think that the art department was given bits and pieces of ideas and concepts they were working with and moods that they were supposed to draw. and come up with pieces for and different planets and things like that. And I think hearing that sort of dribble from what JJ and Lawrence Kasdan were doing, and even Michael Arndt at that time, I am fascinated by that. So I think the time of the Force, like pre-Force Awakens and after 2012, the purchase and just up until 2015 was just such an interesting time at Lucasfilm from what I gather. And just the big sky concepting of like, what's the next, 20 years of this company.
Yeah.
I just think that would be really fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
Challenging, but really fun.
Yeah, that would have been a fun time to be in there.
Yeah.
Just going at it.
Just drawing.
Yep. Just drawing.
Okay, so our next questions are from Instagram. This one is from Jam the Jedi. What's your one favorite? What's one of your fave moments from Celebration? It's so hard to pick because
really
Celebration is the best 3 or 4 days of the year, and the highs are so high. I feel like, actually, I'm just going to bring it around because you brought it up and now I can't stop thinking about it.
Okay.
One of my fave moments is when we went to the Remembering Star Wars Rebels panel, and that's when Dave put on the screen this extremely blurred out world between worlds.
That was a great panel.
That panel was amazing. And something we say a lot on the show is that any panel that has Dave Filoni talking at Star Wars Celebration is like on our number one. Always, we have to get in because things that are said there are just really interesting, and the comments, we can read into them. It's just really fun. And that panel in particular, Rebels had just ended, and the vibe was extremely good and extremely healthy, I would say, and really just like filled with adoring, loving fans of Star Wars Rebels. And I remember I had a great question that now I can't even remember what that question was. Do you remember that I was going to ask him?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I did. And it's still a good question. I'll say it here. And they take audience questions, and I didn't run fast enough to get in the line for the audience question. But my audience question would have been, how did you choose to layer all the different voices in the World Between Worlds? And what order? Was there a specific order that you wanted Ezra to hear first? What was the significance of all those? I doubt he would be able to answer that on stage in front of all those people.
But it would have been great to see him try.
It would have been great to see him buffer. But so that was like one of my favorite like panel moments. But obviously I feel like I've had such amazing interactions with people who listen to the show that is just the best ever whenever that happens. When anyone ever comes up to us and say that they listen to the show, it's like I could cry, and I have.
Yeah, me too. I love that panel. That panel was also so great because at the beginning they just had that Lothcat running back and forth.
They bring him back too.
Yeah, that was so great. Everyone loved that. Every time the Lothcat moved, the crowd went, "Aw." That was a great one. I think I still think our 2019 live show was just, I don't know, that's such like a core memory for me. I love that live show, the energy, the feeling, the getting to talk to so many listeners and breaking down the Rise of Skywalker trailer in real time, and people like shouting out questions from the back, and people coming directly from the Rise of Skywalker panel like into our live show. It was just so chaotic and so fun that really is such a highlight for me. I also think like when we've been able to go to like Disney after Celebration, especially like in 2022, the Star Wars nights, like being with our group of friends and riding the Indiana Jones ride like 4 times in a row or something like that.
So good.
It was so much fun. And of course, like Charlotte said, every time someone says they listen to Skytalkers, has just been like such a joy. And I love it when people like badge check us as we're walking by. They don't even say anything to us other than badge check, and they just keep walking.
The frequency in which that happens is so crazy.
It's really funny. And I love that. I love that. I love when people like recognize our voices as like we'll be talking to each other and then someone like hears us and recognizes our voices, and they'll be like, "That's check," and just keep walking.
So crazy.
It's so
the
funny.
craziest thing ever. For someone to recognize us by our voices is so
Yeah.
nuts. I'll never get over it.
Yeah, me neither. But so yeah, like Charlotte said, celebration is just, it really is the best like 3 to 4 days you can possibly have when you go, and it's hard to pick one favorite thing, but those are some of them. All right, our next question is from Pete from the Star Wars podcast, and he actually has another question later on too. But he asks, "You're casting the next Star Wars project. Who are you hiring, and for which type of roles?" And then he also asks a hard-hitting question: Annie Dalla or Reylo? You can only pick one. And then lastly, what Star Wars themed ride would you create for a Disney park?
Okay, so for the casting the next Star Wars project, I'm going to do a non-answer, and it's going to be annoying. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But my non-answer is that I don't want to cast a super known person in Star Wars.
I was going to say.
Yeah, so I know we can agree on that, in that I feel like I'm really happy with the casting choices they've made so far, generally, like genuinely. Like I loved Jude Law. I loved that, right? I did. But I think Star Wars has such magic when it casts people who I don't even know. Like all the kids from Skeleton Crew, never seen them ever before, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my non-answer, and I'm sorry about it. Annie Dalla or Reylo?
This is really your question.
This is like choosing a favorite child. But I'm honestly, I'm going to say Reylo.
I really had no idea which one you would say.
So
I feel like you've been in an Annie Dalla thing.
I am. And that's why I hesitated a little bit. But I do feel like Reylo fills me with like such a fire and a love for, like, have learned so much through the Reylo fandom, and like it's Reylo for me. I love Annie Dalla though.
Yeah.
Like I just because I chose Reylo doesn't mean I love Annie Dalla any less. Okay.
Don't worry.
I just chose Reylo.
No.
Okay.
I pick Reylo too. I love Annie Dalla as well, but that's definitely like a Sophie's choice for Charlotte, of course.
Yeah.
In Star Wars themed ride, I know it's already kind of in Star Tours, but I think doing like a full ride with the Purgles would be so cool. Almost kind of like the Avatar
Flight of Passage.
Yeah, Flight of Passage. But then you would also get to like go to hyperspace a couple of times, or go through like the nebula and stuff like that. I don't know. I think it could be really cool to do something kind of similar to Flight of Passage with the Purgles. I think visually it would look so wild.
I really want a chill ride, a chill Star Wars ride in Galaxy's Edge. So I think we were really close with getting the canceled Bantha ride-along ride that would go throughout Galaxy's Edge. There's a lot of unused concepts for Galaxy's Edge, and I think what we're really in desperate need of, if there was going to be an expansion, is not an e-ticket, but instead a slow-moving boat ride with several different scenes to tell a story with unique characters and beautiful animatronics or puppets or something.
Yeah.
I want that because I love every single ride at Disney World, really. Disneyland too. Huge fan of the experience. But what I always come back to, and what I just think is classic Walt Disney World, Disneyland, is a slow-moving boat ride.
Yeah.
With extreme attention to detail. So that's what I would love for Star Wars, and that's the themed ride I would do. And I am not going to choose something that already exists. Like, I think we need a new story.
Oh, so. I was going to say, what if it was on Naboo?
No, it has to be in Galaxy's Edge. So
right.
I want it to be a new story that people will complain about, and I want that. But that's what we need, with maybe a fun song that will become a classic eventually.
I think that's great. Yeah, it definitely needs a song.
Yep. Okay. I feel very strongly about that. I've thought about that a lot. Okay. So Force Ghost Conversation asks, what are you most excited for about the future of Skytalkers,
which is closely tied to the future of Star Wars as well. I think short term, I'm really excited for our trip to Japan, of course. I just feel like we've been thinking about it for literal years at this point.
Years, yeah.
Yeah, it's not really a goal per se or like an achievement or something like that. I'm just really excited to like go on this trip and experience a Star Wars convention, honestly, in a part of the world that I've never been before, and to just like be there with everyone too, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, I get so excited when we deep dive into a certain subject on the show. And I love having that little research project, ability to dive deep into some fandom spaces online or books that I own. And so I think I'm excited to continue to do that in the future. It's always great when people really respond well to those too. And also I'm really loving rewatching the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So I can't wait I don't want to finish it because I don't want to finish it, but I'm really enjoying that. And we say it when we're doing these episodes, but it truly is like watching new Star Wars for us. Star Wars that we lived when it was airing, but going back now so many years later with these fresh eyes, having so many Star Wars series under our belts now, it's really, really fun. And I am really enjoying this laser focus on different arcs that we're doing on the show. So I can't wait to continue that. And for more people to listen to that and get with us in listening to it too. And joining us.
Listen to us. Talk about Clone Wars.
Watch the Clone Wars with us or just listen. We do recap it.
Yeah, we do. I will say, speaking of, deep dives and stuff, Charlotte and I have a secret summer series that has been lost to time.
Yes.
That is hopefully
lost to the strike, in fact.
Well, that's not true because we've actually had this one planned for 2 years now because it originally came out it was supposed to come out when Andor was coming out, and a lot happened to us in that like 2-month period when Andor was coming out, season 1, that we couldn't release our summer series that year. And then we were like, we'll do it next year. And then the strike happened. And then somehow like a whole other year has happened. And anyway, it's going to be really good. I don't know when it's coming out, but it will come out this year. And that's going to be a really great deep dive for both Charlotte and I. So a little tease.
I'm excited for that. I hope we can pull that one off this year.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Me too. I've said it now. Our next question is from Gano CJ or Christina, and she asks, Star Wars dinner party, but you can only choose characters from the live action shows. Okay, lucky for me, Eamon Esfandi is a live action character. So Ezra Bridger, you're coming to dinner. I also am going to invite Cassian. That would also be an interesting duo, Ezra and Cassian Andor. Yeah. What would they talk about? I also want to invite, oh my gosh, what is his name from the Book of Boba Fett? The secretary guy, the Twilight secretary.
The secretary, yeah. What's his name? I don't remember.
I don't remember. He's coming. He's coming.
Okay, that's fun.
And then I think I also want to invite, I think I'll invite Fennec Shand too. I think she would be fun, especially to have the two of them together. And then from live action TV shows. And I think I'll also invite, you know what? Let's invite Din.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm going to invite Din. Yeah.
Okay. I have an unhinged answer.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready.
Both of the twin Hutts.
Oh, jealous. So jealous.
And then the question that I have is, did we decide that one of those twins was at the spa in Skeleton Crew? Like, is that the same character?
I don't think so. I think we hope.
Okay, so I'm inviting her.
Okay, so 3 Hutts.
Those 3 Hutts. The Rancor that that Grogu falls asleep next to.
All right. What's your last invite?
I'm inviting Boba Fett. This is so unhinged.
I'm so jealous about the
I know
twin
you are.
huts. I'm
Yes.
so jealous.
Yeah. I love the twins
Oh,
so much.
no, you know who you should invite?
Who?
I think
Instead of
I think
Boba?
maybe not instead of Boba, but instead of the third hut, the nameless hut, you got to invite Catholips.
No, Catholips is coming instead of Boba.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Because
That's
he
great.
loves a good story and he would do something just for the bit. And that's what I'm doing right now.
That's the best dinner ever.
Yeah, you're so right. Thank you for that wonderful addition.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the next question we have is from Derek's Wolf Girl. Where would you like to see the characters of Skeleton Crew appear next?
Obviously a season 2.
Yes, a season 2 would be perfect.
That would be ideal. I think also we talked about this in our finale discussion, but having Jason Sandula meet all the kids and he can join the group. Obsessed with that concept. So I would also like to see that. Whether that happens in Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew season 2, I don't really care. I would just like to see it.
Yeah, I would love for the kids to be a part of somehow this B plot with Thrawn that will come into play, I think, in season 2 of Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Adden could work with that somehow. I don't know how, but I that's what I'd love to see. And maybe oh my God, I just got such galaxy brain vibes. I was just thinking about like maybe we'd have a season 2 of Skeleton Crew and then concurrently Ahsoka would be airing.
Oh my
and then
God.
we'd have a crossover episode where it just like worked.
Where it just worked.
And it wasn't just like random, like The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. It was like an actual crossover that happened with like weekly air times like we used to do back in the day on network television.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Not that The Mandalorian in Book of Boba Fett is bad by any means. We enjoyed that heavily, but I feel like that's what I was thinking in terms of like storylines. It would be crazy if they pulled off a concurrent storyline in 2 different shows that was airing at the same time.
I would just like for Thrawn to say I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling kids.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, as I say like 2 shows at once crossing over, I think about our sleep schedule.
Yeah, that was my first thought.
You're like, we do not want 2 shows airing.
Don't put that out there.
Yeah. Okay. But all right, sure. I just kind of like want some synergy, I guess.
They could air back to back, you know, one finishes and the other picks up.
The reason why I say that honestly comes from a place of wanting to continue the stories with the kids in a way that doesn't feel like a shoehorned in cameo or something like that we only get like 1 episode on. I want more with the kids' story and how they end up into this intersecting timeline or something.
Yeah.
By intersecting timeline, I mean timeline with a different show or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. Our next question is from Jedi Brian. What's the biggest thing you've learned about yourselves doing this show?
I think confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think confidence in like every arena. Doing the podcast, and I know you feel this way too, Caitlin, has made me a better public speaker, has made me speak up for myself more in my day job and work meetings. It's made me feel not ashamed of a hobby and interest that I had all my life that I was always putting on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the podcast and it's very much in the front of my life. So it's not something I can put on the back burner. And I mean that in like such an amazing way. Like that was sort of the purpose, is that something that I care about so much isn't just like forgotten, because you should be really like nurturing that inner child part of yourself. And that's how I feel what we do when we revisit Star Wars every week with the show. So that's something that I've learned about myself.
Yeah, I would say mine are the same, honestly, which I know is like a bad answer, but I think the confidence in speaking and in trusting what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's a lesson, but just the fact that we could do it, you know, for so long, like, oh, we're still doing it. We're still doing it. And that's, I don't know, that's really cool to be doing something for so long like this, and just learning that we could. And I don't know, and all the little things we've learned along the way about our fandom and Star Wars and meeting other people and things like that, it has just become, one of the biggest parts of our lives. And like you said, having that at the forefront and not being something to hide or not tell people, you know what I mean? Like, it's a part of who I am. And if you want to get to know me, that's what we're going to be talking about. So
Yeah.
I hope you have a good Star Wars opinion. I'm just kidding. But that's what we're going to be talking about. And yeah, I think having that confidence is probably the biggest thing that the podcast has given me over the years. Like you said, like in my day-to-day life and at work and in public speaking and stuff. And I really like talking. So the podcast has definitely helped with that. It has helped it become a skill, I should say.
I also think it's been so helpful week after week to like, this is so weird and might come off strange. I just have to preface that in that it's like okay to make mistakes and be wrong and like go out on a limb and say this opinion or this piece of speculation and then sort of immediately be proven wrong. And then having, and we can laugh because it is funny and like that's how we should be dealing with things. And I think it goes with the confidence thing, being confident enough to be like, I think it could go this way. A cool thing that could happen is this, or I really liked this. And then, I don't know. And then maybe being wrong about something and having to deal with that it's minor, but it is really helpful. It's just great. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
We have another question from Pete. He asks, choose 3 Star Wars characters' style to combine to create your everyday wardrobe forever.
Forever.
I love this question. Forever. Okay.
You go first.
I am pretty girly, so I have to choose Padme, Leia's Alderaanian closet, and Jyn Erso for the casual days.
Okay, I'm gonna bring Fennec Shand back again because
oh my god, great!
I love her hair.
Yeah, so good.
It's so cool. And then where I'm also, I think, could create some really fun styles would be Haldo.
Oh yeah,
with the purple hair and
the purple,
the color drenching, and then I think there's something there. And then third, I would say I'd probably say Padme too, but like specifically Revenge of the Sith Padme, not and like Attack of the Clones Padme, not Queen Amidala. I don't have the patience for that. So maybe a little bit more low key. Actually, no, I'm gonna scratch Padme and I'm gonna bring in Mon Mothma.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what
a good pick.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. I liked that question a lot.
Yeah, me too. Our next question is from Erica Carroll, who asks, have you made any plans for your Japan trip outside of Celebration?
Erica, have we made plans?
We are actively planning.
Yeah. In fact, we have. We have a spreadsheet. We got flights booked. We got hotels booked. We got
hopes and dreams.
We got restaurants we want to go to. We have tickets we want to get. We have train tickets we got to book. Tours we want to do. What are we doing in Japan? I am very lucky that I went to Japan last year. In that for like basically the same length of time, in that planning that for my family gave a little bit of a template for how to approach this trip, which I think is very helpful, at least for me, like visualizing how we would do it and planning it. Because it is hard when you have, you're going to be at Celebration for 3 days. You need like 4 nights for that. And you're going across the country, or across the globe across the globe for this. So you definitely want to get the most of your time when you're in Japan. So how are you going to do it? Luckily, I already had like, this is a way to do the trip. I've done it. And I'm like, this is when we're going to be tired and when you're not. So I feel like that's helpful. At least I don't know if it is helpful, but
it's been helpful. It's been great that Charlotte has kind of the lay of the land a little bit. And yeah, the template was helpful. And I think now we're in the process of like really starting to narrow down, okay, like Charlotte mentioned, like what tickets are we going to go through? Like I know we want to go to the Ghibli Museum, but those are hard tickets to get. So
like impossible.
It kind of depends if we get them, if we go.
And then so if we get those, then our day changes because it's like kind of far outside of Tokyo and like how we're, so all that kind of stuff will come together. I have a couple tips if for people who are going to Japan. First thing is use your hotel's concierge to book restaurants. So if you want to go I know that this is a thing that people do. They want to go have like a really nice sushi omakase. And it's really hard. I found it very difficult to book reservations for places that are highly ranked and rated. I'm a foodie, so I think that also plays into it. But on like TripAdvisor and things like that, oftentimes you go to the website and it's in Japanese and it's like untranslatable through Google. And then when you do translate it, it says book through your hotel. So don't hesitate to email your hotel's front desk and tell them we want this restaurant for this date. We're also open to this date. And they will help you with that.
Yeah. Isn't it like a lot of Japanese restaurants, you have to have a Japanese phone number as well?
Exactly. So it's so much easier to book through a concierge. I know Amex can do this as well for you, but I think having it booked through your hotel, it's very expected. And when you arrive in Japan, they will tell you at your hotel, like, oh, yes, we have these reservations booked for you. To me, I've traveled many places, and that was not really something I had done before I arrived in that country. So I recommend doing that like a month before your trip, especially if you want to go, like I said, go to a pretty nice omakase. The good thing is that the yen to USD is like so good. We have such a good exchange rate right now that there are several that's another tip, I guess, just like a bonus. It's just great. Another tip I have is that you should buy a little towel. This is a very common thing. Most of the restrooms in Japan don't have like a hand dryer or cloth towels or paper towels at all. So especially if it's cold, and it might be in Japan in April, I don't know. When I went last year in February, so it was literally freezing. You wash your hands, and then if you don't have anything to wipe them off, your hands are literally freezing. And it's also just really customary to have this. Everyone has a little square, what did I say? Like a washcloth. Yeah, towel. So you can look it up, like Japanese bathroom washcloth on Amazon or something, and you'll find a bunch of cute ones, and they're small, and you just fold it up and put them in your purse. Another tip I have is to buy a coin purse, because cash is absolute king in Japan, and you, like most of the places that you go to, you will use cash and not your credit card. We found that using our American Express didn't really work that well. In fact, some places like just didn't even really want to run our Visa. So we had so much cash, and just the way that the yen works, that you'll have a lot of coins. So your coin purse will be like chock full of coins. And you'll also want to use those coins for vending machines, which are everywhere. So I'm trying to think of other tips off the top of my head. Another tip I have is actually don't eat where you're not supposed to eat. It's very, very specific about where to eat. Like you can't just eat while you're walking down the street. Can't do that. Have to eat in like an area that's designated for eating and drinking. So yeah, that was a culture shock to me, I guess.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be doing a
Yes, we are.
Pre-celebration episode before Japan, and it's going to come out early sometime in like probably mid-March, because we'll be in Japan before celebration, so we want to make sure we get it out before we get there and before people really start packing and heading over there, because it is so far. So I know Charlotte's definitely going to have a lot more.
Yeah, I do. This is a preview
off the cuff.
And I'm telling you guys, like, take advantage of the reservations, okay? Like, because, and I think that since celebration is during potentially cherry blossom, we might miss it, which is really unfortunate. I saw that recently. I don't know if you saw that, Caitlin.
No.
Yeah, it's just, we never know. Last year it was late, so if it was like last year, then we might see it, but we also might not. I'm sure some places will have them out, but regardless, it's a really crowded, popular time to visit Japan. So I think reservations and restaurants fill up, especially ones that are, researched and are in the guidebooks for the Westerners. So, yeah. all this to be, I know the question was, have you made any plans? Yeah, Caitlin and I are going to Tokyo Disneyland, Kyoto, Nara.
We've got plans.
Celebration.
Yeah.
Got many plans. Gonna be doing a lot of shopping, a
I'm
lot of roaming around, a lot of
excited.
eating.
I got a new suitcase for Christmas for Japan specifically.
Nice.
And I know you bought suitcases in Japan.
2. Did I buy 1 suitcase? No,
I
2.
said suitcases.
Get ready. Yeah, get ready, everyone, to buy a suitcase because it is so common. You see so many people doing it. And a good place to buy them is a store that is in most major cities called Don Quixote. You can get a suitcase for like $30. So that's pretty good. And I still use it. So use them, honestly. It's so crazy. We needed those. And
You did.
packed light.
I needed you to have those because you
Exactly.
brought me back.
They were all just filled with gifts. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Our next question is from Kelly's Magical Vacations, which we love Kelly. She can help plan your Disney trip.
Yes, we love Kelly.
Yeah. She asks, if you could change the ending of one Star Wars movie or show, what would it be and why?
What would you say to this?
I mean,
there's the cultural answer, and then there's the story answer.
For me, it's the same. I think it would be The Rise of Skywalker, seriously, because there were 2 changes I would make. It would either be for Ben to have lived, or there to be some more grieving or hopefulness with Rey's response to that. And then, or it would be to change Rey's lineage. But that's not really an ending. So I think it would be more based.
Ben lives.
Yeah, I think so. And I do think that would just be better for the story overall, honestly. I think that's what
Fully
I would
agree.
change. Yeah.
Okay, but story-wise, I would, if I were living the Star Wars,
right,
I would change Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
That's what I meant,
I thought you meant.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were in Star Wars.
Yeah, if I was in Star Wars and living the Star Wars, I would change Anakin turning to the dark side.
Okay, what moment would...
when Anakin goes to Palpatine's office and the Jedi are all there with Mace Windu, I would have Anakin kill Palpatine when he had the moment and not Mace Windu.
Okay, see, I'm going to pick a different moment that I think is more juicy and more dramatic, actually. That could create a whole other universe.
Ripple effect.
Yeah, ripple effect. Who knows what it would come from or what would come from it. I would have Ahsoka say yes to Darth Maul when he asks her to join him to take down Anakin.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I think I think that would be fascinating to see what happens.
Wow.
So,
wow, that would be so good.
Right?
Yeah.
It would really be so good. It'd be so juicy.
Yeah. She said movie/show. I was just thinking maybe I would change an ending to a show, but I wouldn't change an ending to the show.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was an ending to a show I would change. And I've been pretty happy with all of the Star Wars endings in our TV shows. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with how our TV shows have ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, I definitely agree with you about if I were making a story change, it would be Ben living. If I were making if it was I think Revenge of the Sith is where you could pick something.
No, I have an ending I would change. It's a minor thing in an ending. In the season 1 finale of Ahsoka, I would make sure that Ezra and Hera hugged.
Hell yes.
First, you, Dave Filoni, the only time I'll ever say that.
I know, seriously. That was crazy.
It really was. The other thing I would change in that, there's actually so much I would change in that scene. I would make it so that Jason recognized that was Ezra, even though he's never met Ezra before, because we saw Jason's force sense capabilities and he would just know that was Ezra even before Hera really recognized it. And then Hera and Ezra hugging. There we go.
Totally agree.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next question is from AOR Presents. Do you know people at Lucasfilm? How have you been able to make those connections?
We do know people at Lucasfilm. I think, honestly, social media is how we've been
And the
able
podcast.
well,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Like social media through the podcast
Mhm.
is really how we've been able to make those connections. And we've been really fortunate that people at Lucasfilm have listened to Skytalkers and they've like interacted with us, and we've been able to honestly that's how we've been able to make those connections.
Yeah, and we're so lucky that have become friends with people who work on the things we love. It's so freaking cool. It's just the
Mhm.
coolest. Um, but yeah, it's really just through social media. This power of social media is crazy. And there was a time where Twitter was really fun. And it was a really good time to have conversations with people who are making the thing in like a sort of a non-hostile way. I swear. I
Yeah, no,
swear.
it existed.
It existed. I know feels like a bygone era, but we did do that. And that is kind of how it all started, honestly.
Yeah. All right, our next question is from Daniel Sotier, who asks, do you think they should make a Kira Crimson Dawn series set after Solo?
I would love them to. Like, would love that. I want more Kira content. Caitlin and I recently watched Solo on New Year's Eve, and God, Kira is just the coolest freaking character. And I have not kept up with the comics, so I don't really know where her story netted out. But I will say I am sort of disappointed that they explored the story in canon in the comics. Like I said, I haven't read them just because I feel like that sort of counts out any sort of opportunity for Kira to come back. But I would love that. I think Crimson Dawn is so interesting, and the iconography is really cool. I don't know. I think that there's a lot that you could do with that. And I would love if that came up somehow in a show. I don't know if it would be a Kira Crimson Dawn full series, but I would love that. I really would. Because, I mean, they really left us hanging in Solo with Maul there. I mean, that was crazy. That was crazy.
It was such a mic drop moment, and it really feels like it hasn't been picked up yet again in a big way. Like we said, we know it's in the comics, but to see more of Kira and what she would have done leading Crimson Dawn, or not leading because Maul was leading it, but going to Dathomir. I mean, it was literally so insane to have Darth Maul tell Kira, who just left Han Solo, to meet him at Dathomir. You know, that's a sentence that's canon. And it's an opportunity, and I do feel like they should take it and explore it in a larger scale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess like I feel so uncertain around the future of Star Wars television, where about 3 years ago, I would have said, yeah, this is a shoo-in. This is going to happen. Emilia Clarke is going to want to come back. She's talked about her love of the character Kira and etc. But now I just sort of don't even know where we're going next. Like if they were serious about exploring a Lando Calrissian series,
Yeah.
which I know has been on the back burner forever, then I would actually assume that Kira would come into that somehow.
Yeah. That would be so great.
But it would be amazing.
It would be so good.
And I love Alden's Han Solo. Love him. So I don't know if Solo 2 is ever on the table either, but I just think they did something really fun and cool with those characters. And I don't know a single person who didn't like the character of Kira or that version of Han Solo or that version of Lando that wouldn't want that to be continued somewhere else.
Yeah, they were so great. I think doing the Lando series and at least having Kira coming in for that would make so much sense. And it would be so great to see what shenanigans Lando would be getting into that somehow would involve Kira and Crimson Dawn and something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Okay, so our last question is from Drum Jedi. What is your favorite thing that has changed for you both as people and as podcasters in the past 8 years?
I would say it's not that it's changed, it's that it has stayed the same, and that, you know, like it's still you and me. We're still doing this. We still love it. And I mean, that's a long time. You know, I think it's sappy, but like I really just am so grateful that like you're still my best friend after 25 years. or
That's crazy.
however long it's been. Like, I've literally known you my entire life, basically. Yeah. I've known you longer than I haven't known you.
I know.
And that is honestly such a gift. And a lot of people don't get that. So it's not what's changed, it's what stayed the same.
That is so sappy and making me tear up.
It's really sappy. Gotta stop.
I think in like another vein, just because I have to pivot or else I'll just like cry. I feel like my favorite thing that has changed is that I've actually learned so much. Like when we started doing the podcast, I thought I knew Star Wars. And like turns out I didn't really. Like I feel like I learned so much in the past 8 years about Star Wars and Star Wars history, how it's made, the ins and outs of how it all works. Star Wars has made me, in this podcast especially, more interested in film and filmmaking and composite shots and lighting and special effects and sound. And I know that's like a very common experience for a Star Wars fan, by the way. I'm very aware of that. And I think that is something actually, Caitlin says this a lot, is that she kind of wishes that Star Wars marketed itself a little bit more like this, because Star Wars can be like a gateway drug into learning about film. And because like, oh, Star Wars references XYZ film. Oh, maybe I should watch those films. And then I do. And I'm like, oh my God, these movies are amazing.
Yeah.
Some of the best movies I've ever seen, And I did that before the podcast, but never to the extent that we do now. And I feel like my library has expanded because then I could be like, oh, this is for the podcast. And yeah. And then on top of that, I feel like what has changed for me is we learned a whole new craft. We learned how to make a podcast, how to market a podcast, how to upload a podcast, RSS feeds, audio. We've become mini audio engineers randomly. We've figured ourselves out of some crazy technical situations. We've become interviewers. I remember the first time we did a big interview, you were like, I've never interviewed anyone before. And I had that just like never even crossed my mind when we like lined something up. And I feel like we have gotten so much better at that. And we've spoken on the podcast about how we had been sort of nervous around that before. And I just feel like we've learned how to do it. We've learned how to do so much. It's just crazy. Yeah.
I think a big thing too, and I think this goes back to I think it was Brian's question about like what has changed or what's the best thing you've learned. And you kind of touched on this already, but just being okay with opinions changing about things. Because I think when we started this, when we were 23, 24 years old, I thought I was pretty set in how I felt about things in the Star Wars world. And, I'm an adult and these are the things I like and these are the things I don't like. And that has just not been true. And like what you were talking about with speculation and how it's okay that one week we're wrong about something and then the next week, it's something different. But I think just watching our trajectory of the things that we're interested in over the years shift. And I mean, good Lord, you invited the Hutts to your...
I know. I was about to say Jabba the Hutt is a perfect low stakes example to that.
Yeah.
Or even just Yoda for you.
Yeah. It's been fun that the podcast has allowed that to be a part of our experience of Star Wars, of just understanding when things aren't for me, and that's okay. But then being like, oh, a year later, now this is for me. And now it's a part of my Star Wars fandom. And maybe it wasn't in that way 3 years ago, and now it is. And that's just so fun. And that's how big the Star Wars galaxy is. And I think that's a really important lesson in real life as well, that the things you hold on to can change, and that's okay for them to change. And when you learn something new, that is now a part of your understanding and perspective of the world, and you can change your mind about things, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a very Star Wars lesson, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can choose a different path. Like on a large scale in Star Wars, you can always choose a different path, right? And that might be difficult. But on a smaller scale, the lesson that we take away is
You can decide you like Jabba the Hutt one day.
Exactly. Someone on Instagram can convince you through great photography and amazing Instagram posts that Jabba the Hutt is actually maybe the best character. If you don't know, do we need to tee that up?
Yeah. No, tell the lore. Tell the lore.
If you don't know, we are obsessed with this Instagram account that's also a YouTube channel called Mighty Jabba's Collection. And he buys every Jabba the Hutt piece of merchandise. And it ranges from the wacky, the weird, to the cute, the wonderful, the classic.
He's changed our lives.
Fully changed our lives. And the photography is slick.
He worked, what was it recently? He found a model of a Jabba figure or something. I don't have the right right vocabulary. And we almost dropped $200 on Jabba merch, you and I, because of him.
Just another thing that we discovered, another thing that changed. Like I said, I've learned so much. We learned about bootleg Star Wars merchandise and bootleg Star Wars collectibles, which then led us to this hype around Mighty Jabba's Collection making a famous Jabba bootleg replica that we wanted to buy. And that's what that was.
Yeah.
And so there's a line there. We've connected the dots of the love of the learning all the history, learning so much, and then how that relates to how we change and grow as people.
Thank you, Jabba the Hutt.
Thank you, Jabba the Hutt. No, but genuinely, like, I think us putting ourselves out there and being like, we actually hated The Rise of Skywalker. I'm so sorry. And then still continuing on.
Yeah, that was big.
It was really big. But then also realizing that I think some of our, this is my perspective, is I think a lot of our thoughts were reactionary, and also being okay with the fact that they were reactionary and then continuing to work through them 5 years later, you know?
Yeah.
Putting yourself out there in a vulnerable state.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take it back
to risk
to Jabba. And I think this is where we should end, because when we went to Celebration 2023, it was at the height of our Jabba love. We were so fresh on a Jabba high of him entering our life in a big way. And we were so ready for really cool Jabba merch in London. And I'm sorry, but London did not deliver on the merch. I hate to say it, but I got some cool things. Don't get me wrong. Like, I got it.
If Japan is like London with the merch,
no, that Japan will come through with the good Jabba merch, with good merch in general. But I think specifically, I'm really hoping for some good Jabba merch. I'm putting the bid out there again, because I just don't think London really delivered in the ways I was hoping it would.
Not at all.
I did get some cool stuff. I did get a vintage 1980s Jabba puzzle of Return of the Jedi, which I really love. And we got those really cool Jabba coin purses.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
that was our
fun
Jabba
to bring.
merch.
Yeah. But
wait, oh my God. Genius, given the fact that I just gave that as a tip.
I know.
The only thing I will say is those small little coin purses, the ones that they're really small. And the Japan coin, like I said, you get a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think you want a pouch.
Maybe we just bring
amend.
it for the bit.
I think we definitely bring it for the bit, but I think we need another one.
Yeah. I want to get one there. I want to get like a fun, cute one there.
Okay.
Could I start with Jabba and then upgrade when I get there?
Yeah, knowing I'll need to do it in the first like 2 days.
Yeah. Okay, great. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think
we went a lot of places with this.
And we ended where we're going, which is Tokyo.
Yes, for sure.
We've connected the dots. We've brought it full circle.
We have.
All right. Well, I think that is going to wrap up our 8th anniversary birthday Q&A. Thank you guys so much for listening to Skytalkers, to Charlotte and I babble and ramble for the past 8 years. It really does mean a lot to us. And we really do not take for granted that we get to be a part of your Star Wars experience. It really means a lot to us. And we think that's very important. So we do work really hard at our show and because we want it to be of value to you. So if you've joined us at any point in the journey, whether it was during Skeleton Crew or you've been here since 2017, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to us. And if you're going to be at Celebration Japan, we're going to be talking about it for the next couple of months. Please come and say hi to us. We would love to meet you and give you some merch, some Skytalkers merch. But before then, if you want to find us online, you can find us on Twitter/X at SkyTalkersPod, or our personal handles. Charlotte's is at Crarity and mine is at Caitlin Plesher. We also have our website, skytalkers.com, our Instagram, our TikTok once again, and our email as well, hello@skytalkers.com. You can reach us there. If you have a couple minutes and would like to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, that would be a great birthday present. It helps other people find our show and join in on the conversation. And if you're interested in other ways to support us, you can head on over to our Patreon and check out our different reward tiers there.
I want to say a huge thank you to these patrons: Joey, Madison, Draconius Rex, Stephen, Kylie, Chris, Becky, Leslie, Allie, Jules, Alexa, Starbors, Stephen, Madison, Catherine, Lucy, BJ, Nina, Ira Bell, Jeanette, Allie, and Raphael. Thank you so much for supporting us.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And until next time, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
This has been a 58 Ember production. For more shows, please visit the 58 Ember channel, 58ember.com, or find us at 58 Ember Media on socials.